Welcome to Tuesdays with Entegra Coach. I'm PJ Clanton. Today we are going to be talking about your auto generator start feature. So we've called this several things over the years. We've called it pet safe. We've called it AGS. Let's just call it what it really is, automatic generator start. So this is a feature that has been built into motorhomes for several years. The auto generator start feature, which basically means when there's a demand, when there's some sort of a trigger, your generator is automatically going to start when you have the feature enabled. So let's kind of walk through how this works, right? We go to our panel, our control panel, whether we're on an automation screen or we're on an own-in controlled screen. We're going in and we're going to set it up to auto gen start. So what we're telling you is that, hey, if you have a trigger, we want you to start automatically. So I may be away from the coach, maybe in the middle of the night while we're sleeping, and we lose battery power, or we've lost shore power and your air conditioner's on, or anything of that nature. We've gotten so advanced in the technology of that system, so now we can even detect when you don't have enough shore power. You're still plugged in, but you don't have enough shore power, and the generator can start to supplement that power that you need. So basically how this works is we're setting this up and we're asking for a specific trigger. So the triggers that we have set up into our system, and this has been over all the years, we've always had a HVAC system set up. We've always had a low voltage, and then we started adding other things. The loss of shore power is added in. Now we have insufficient shore power. We have a quiet time built in. We've got quiet time pre-fill, so it gives it an extra charge before it goes into quiet time. So just to give you an idea of how all those things work, basically, let's start at our low voltage trigger, because that is going to be something that we have to set. When we set that variable up and we can tell it what we want the low voltage to be, in our system we don't want you to get below 11.7 volts. So we set that from the factory here at 11.7 volts to be our start at voltage. So if your auto gen start is enabled, anytime your battery voltage reaches 11.7 for more than 60 seconds, it's going to start that generator and it's going to start the charging process. Now, it starts the generator and it triggers the 110 out to the transfer switch. That goes into the inverter. The inverter turns that into a charge, and we're charging your batteries. And that's going to continue to run until we reach our stop at voltage. Again, this is going to be a voltage and for a time frame. So we need to see 13.5 volts. That is our default setting in the system. We want to see 13.5 volts for a sustained 120 minutes. Basically, what that means is if you're at 13.6 volts and you go in and you flush your macerator toilet, the voltage just now dropped down to about 13.1, maybe 12.8. But what you've done is you've now started that timer over because the voltage dropped below our 13.5 volt threshold. So that may prolong that generator being on even longer to make sure that we have that sustained 13.5 volts, ensuring that we have a fully charged battery. So it may run longer than what you would expect. Just depends on your usage of the coach at the time. Now let's shift over to your HVAC system. Same thing applies. You're going to go in and set your thermostats to whatever you want them to be, whether you're on auto, whether you're on cool. It doesn't matter what you're on. Here's what's going to happen. If you're plugged into shore power and you lose shore power and there's a demand for your HVAC system, whether it's the air conditioners, the heat pumps, it will automatically trigger that generator and tell it to turn on because there is a request from your HVAC system. So it's going to satisfy that request. Let's say you're at 70 degrees and you've set your thermostat at 72. Heat comes on, runs it to 72. Well, we can go the other way. It's 72 and you have it set to 70. Okay, the air conditioner comes on and it reaches 70 degrees. When it reaches 70 degrees, the air conditioner turns off. The generator runs through its cool down period, and then the generator turns off. That's part of the auto gen start feature, and it will continue that cycle as needed. Just kind of how the HVAC system works. When we're talking about the other items, the no shore power, the loss of shore power, or the insufficient shore power, those are kind of a little bit different. When you lose shore power, you're plugged in, something happens at the campground, storms, whatever, and you lost shore power, it's going to start looking for those other triggers. We're not going to immediately start that generator just because you lost shore power. We want to see that there's an actual trigger there. we're looking to see if there's shore power present. If there is shore power present, we don't need to run the generator for either one of those triggers. So in the event you lost shore power and then one of these other triggers happens, that's when your auto generator start is going to kick in. Now we're talking about insufficient shore power. Let's just say you are running all 3 air conditioners and you're only plugged into 30 amp power. And people say, oh no, you can't do that. Well, you can do that. You can actually set your system up and just request all 3 ACs. And what's going to happen is when it determines that we need to run all 3 ACs, but yet we're still on 30 amp power, we're not going to have enough shore power to do that. So the generator senses that, sees, hey, we're out of power. We don't have enough to run everything, but we can supplement. So the generator is going to fire up. It's going to automatically transfer from your shore power, your 30 amp power on shore power, to your generator power, which is going to be 50 amp, allowing you to run everything in the coach. Now, once that trigger goes away, let's say one of those air conditioners go off, or 2 of those air conditioners are satisfied and go off, that generator is going to turn off, and it's going to transfer back to your shore power. So now you're back on your 30 amp power. So that's how your insufficient shore power works. Now we have quiet time available. That's generally set up in campgrounds that tell you can't run your generator at night, and generally that is from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. Some of them are 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. At any rate, if they have a quiet time policy, you want to utilize the quiet time. Now, there is a feature built in that says quiet time prefill. And what's happening is basically we're looking at your quiet time prefill. We put a set value in there. Hey, when it reaches this quiet time, or when we know quiet time's coming, usually if your quiet time is set at 10 o'clock, it looks at this at 8 p.m. So quiet time is set to 10 p.m. It's going to look at 8 p.m. and say, okay, at 8 p.m. is my voltage over said value. Currently, I believe from default to us, it's 12.4 volts. So that's going to be set up in the system. If your battery voltage is less than 12.4 volts at 8 p.m., the generator is going to fire up. It's going to start, and it's going to charge your batteries until 10 p.m. At 10 p.m., when your quiet time starts, the generator turns off. And then you go the entire quiet time process, and hopefully we've put enough charge in those batteries to get you to that 7 or 8 a.m. start time if you're out boondocking somewhere. So that's kind of how the auto gen start works. Again, we've called it several things over the years, but really it's just an automatic generator start. So hopefully that's helped. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out. We'll get back to you and let you know as soon as possible. Thanks again for watching Tuesdays with Entegra Coach.